Welcome to the Somewhat Frank podcast, hosted by me, Frank Gruber, and joined by my friends and colleagues, Jen Consalvo and John Guidos. This podcast explores the latest trends and advancements in technology and business, including emerging startups and how they shape today while looking forward towards the future. We also enjoy testing new gadgets and products and sharing our findings too, along with our favorite pop culture picks like music, books, and what we're streaming. This podcast is produced in collaboration with our company, Established. Ready to dive in? Time to be somewhat frank. Welcome back to Somewhat Frank Podcast. I'm your host, Frank Gruber, the co-founder of Established and Established Ventures and the team behind the Startup of the Year program. Thank you for joining me today, my friends, and got my colleagues, John Good Times Guidos and Simon Kahan joining me today. Welcome, guys. How are you doing?
Hi, Frank. Doing great over here.
Good.
Hey, Frank. Doing well.
Awesome. Jen is not here today. She's on another call. Unfortunately, we're busy. We're keeping a lot of stuff going here, and so it's hard to juggle. So we're excited though. We got a lot to talk about, and it's a special day, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, Johnny, what's going on with you? What have you been up to?
Well, Frank, a lot of time outside, mowing the lawn, getting the chickens ready with doing the garden and everything. Also, it's NBA playoff time, so here in Indianapolis, everybody's excited for the Pacers versus the Knicks, even though they're down 2-0, and the refs are kind of, it seems like they're completely against the Pacers, but it's keeping things interesting and fun around our way.
That's exciting. You also had another basketball player start, WNBA star, right? She started in Indy, what, like last week?
Yep, Caitlin Clark. I haven't seen her play yet. For the Indiana team, but excited. I guess they said that like a lot of those games are already sold out. They're gonna be televised and stuff like that, which is great.
Yeah, she hit 5 3-pointers in that game in her first game. Yeah, there's like a preseason game, but yeah, it's coming up, so that's pretty cool. Simon, what about you? What have you been up to?
Well, I was just in Atlanta. I was invited to play in a member guest golf tournament at the Atlanta Athletic Club. Shout out to them. Very friendly people. I had 2 strokes on each hole because I'm so bad, and still didn't do too great. So if the objective was to hit it into the water, I crushed it.
Oh no. How many balls
But
did you
I had a good time. Like the enthusiasm is there. The skills aren't necessarily there, but I do really like to play. So
was it a very water-filled course? Like what was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like impossibly filled with water, and then if there weren't like lakes, there were just sand dunes everywhere. Because I expressed interest very briefly to this guy about golf, and so he took it as like, oh, you should come play in Atlanta. But it was a blast. Had a good time.
Awesome. And did you run out of balls? Did you have enough balls? What was it like situation?
I ran out of balls. I did the old scavenging trick, which is humiliating. It's when you go into the woods and look for more balls at this very nice country club.
Yep, found one.
Yeah, it was gross and dirty, but I pretended it was mine. So
Oh, that's hilarious. Anyway, that sounds like a lot of fun. I haven't golfed in a little bit, so it makes me kind of itch to go hit some balls. All right. So also we've got Established. Our company's been now turned 6 here. So we're excited about that. It's great to have with any new company, there's obviously ups and downs, but with Established over the last 6 years, if you think about it, there was a lot going on, pandemic, and doing a new type of business that was different than Techco and the media stuff we had done for over a decade. So obviously, happy birthday, Established, and we'll continue to keep on pushing forward. And excited about that. And obviously it's starting to become spring out here in Maine, and so it's like a month delayed. I feel like I all of a sudden was looking at my grass and it was brown. And I'm like getting real upset. And I realized, you know what? It just hasn't gotten green yet. And then now all of a sudden it started to rain a little bit more. It's greening up, so I shouldn't be so worried. It's on its way. And then alternatively, John, you mentioned chickens. I'm starting to look into chickens maybe and getting some chickens and doing a little bit of backyard farming myself. We'll see if I'll be a yard farmer or not, but looking into it. We'll see. We'll have to exchange some notes here soon.
Well, I know you've been kind of picking my brain a little bit here and there, so we'll keep the fans and listeners updated as you if you do end up getting some chickens.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I haven't been keeping up with the NBA as much. I've been just kind of passively watching, so it's exciting to hear that they're you're excited about the Pacers and everything. And gosh, there was I'm a huge Bulls fan, so there were some amazing games between Reggie Miller and Michael Jordan that I remember. So yeah, but I haven't really tied in as much. But I remember that excitement. So hopefully your team continues to do well?
Well, they're having a rough time now, so they may be out of it soon enough. Maybe even before this gets published, this
Oh, no.
podcast gets out there. But I
It
will
happens.
one thing you brought up Reggie Miller. So he did go back to Madison Square Garden last night for the first time, I think, since the old, did the choking
Oh,
symbol
that's
with them
right.
back in like the 90s, I think it was. So yeah, that was kind of fun, but the banter between the players and coaches and Reggie Miller. So that was pretty cool.
Did he get booed or was he applauded?
I think he was loving it. He even, I guess, one of his, he did that choking symbol with, who was it? Spike Lee.
Yeah.
And I guess he and Spike Lee have become friends over the years because they were taking pictures together and laughing and stuff. But one of the players did come over and let Reggie Miller know that everybody in the auditorium was chanting, profanities towards Reggie Miller. So it was pretty fun.
That's crazy. Yeah, all right. Well, we got a lot to talk about. Let's jump right in here. We often talk about AI and we talk about ChatGPT quite a bit. It's getting a lot of headlines and OpenAI and whatnot. But there are other players. So today, one that we wanted to talk about was Anthropic, which, if you're not familiar with Anthropic, it was founded in 2001. It was 7 former employees from OpenAI, and including a couple of siblings. And the latter, they're basically Dario. I'm gonna mess up their name. I know it, but I think it's Amodei. Amodei. I don't know. Is that how you guys say it? And Daniela. So anyway, one of those siblings was the OpenAI's vice president of research. So there's a lot of brain power, I guess I could say, behind the scenes at this company, and some are saying that the team behind it is more or less, creating a product that is very, on par, in some cases, better than what OpenAI has been able to do as far as modeling and whatnot. So, but they're going to be attacking a different business. They're going to be attacking, I guess, slightly more enterprise focused, even though, OpenAI does have that Teams platform that you can go to and get other folks on it. So anyway, wanted to hear your guys' thoughts. Have you used it? What are you thinking? I'd like to kind of shine a light on another product rather than just talk about ChatGPT, which we talk about a lot.
Sure, I'd like to try it out at some point. I was telling you earlier, Frank, I've been exploring other platforms. I know I've been working with Copilot, which is the Microsoft AI app product that they have right now. So I still think ChatGPT is the best for what I'm using it for.
Mhm.
But it's always interesting to see these competitors. I wonder if a lawsuit will come out of that too. I'm sure there was a lot of IP that was. I would imagine they were sensitive to that and probably protective to make sure that they weren't stealing any IP or something, But glad to see there's some competitors out there that'll only probably drive the industry forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I should also mention Anthropic has gotten a ton of funding, like a ridiculous amount of funding from Amazon and Google. I think it's, upwards of 6 billion. It's like between 4 and $6 billion worth of funding
Wow.
to build this. So they're in good shape from a
For a
from a capital
startup, right?
perspective. Yeah, a little small startup, right? A couple years old, and
Yeah.
they've raking it in. So Simon, you mentioned you've been using ChatGPT. What other things are you looking at?
Yeah, I've been using ChatGPT. Anthropic's AI, which I believe is called Claude, is in my opinion, and others, largely considered to be the best. I have been trying to like jailbreak it and see if there are ways to get around some of its parameters just to test its security. I'm not smart enough to do it. Other people have been able to do it and like make it speak other languages that eventually get behind its like guidelines or whatever. So I've been testing that out. If I figure it out, I will leak it to the audience here.
Come on.
Fantastic.
You're hacking the number one AI player out there. That's pretty cool.
I'm giving it a shot. I know a
Good
little
luck.
bit of Java, so I'm a
Nice.
hacker.
Yeah, so we're gonna obviously keep testing it. I think you're gonna continue to see the evolution of these different players, and there could be another one that pops up soon because there's always room for additional competition in a space like this that is becoming really quickly changing. I want to also mention there's the ability. I don't know if you guys have tried this or not, but speaking with a friend of mine over the weekend, and he's really getting into ChatGPT, and he asked, have you created your own GPT yet? And I said, no, I haven't, but that sounds interesting. And so he was looking into that option, and it's something you can do. You can watch some YouTube videos and do that. So I may get into that. I know I said I was looking at the yard and doing some chicken things, but I may end up being in my computer, like building GPTs that do different things. So that's pretty cool too. I didn't been diving into that a little bit. It's a little bit of a rabbit hole, if you will. All right. So speaking of AI and something else we'd like to talk about a lot is music. Did you guys see that Randy Travis is using so Randy Travis, country western singer, he had a stroke in 2013, and it enabled him to sing. Like he's a good, country singer. He has a lot of hits out there. And yeah, he was unable to sing, and so he lost his voice in the way that he had it before. And so he's basically been using AI to clone his voice, and he used it for a new song called "Where That Came From." So I thought this was pretty cool. It reminded me a little bit of the Beatles and what they did with their latest hit that was put out. And obviously, it's kind of running that line of like controversial too, because there's artists that are literally signing pledges we talked about last week that are saying don't use AI. And here's somebody that was literally disabled, and he's using AI to put out hits and continue to be a musician. So it's quite on the threshold of, is this right or not, right? All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Go ahead, Simon.
It's honestly really hard to tell what's AI these days, especially when it comes to music. I remember last year there was an I think it was like a Future song or a Drake song that came out. Someone released it and it was purely AI, but it was an incredible song and like rose to the top of the charts or whatever. I think his account on Spotify, I believe, was banned because of it. But it's just incredible, like the leaps and bounds you're making with quality AI music. A little scary, but it's fascinating.
Yeah, and didn't Drake use Tupac or something like that? I'm not a big, we haven't been.
Yeah, Drake recently used Tupac's AI voice in one of his raps, and the estate actually had threatened to sue him, so he had to take it down.
All right, but we won't use any Tupac lyrics on this podcast. We're not going to try to rap him. I know we can do
Yeah,
that. We're all very.
I like to think he would have been into the Somewhat Frank podcast.
He would have been a big fan, and I
Yeah,
definitely am. I've definitely played lots of Tupac songs in my lifetime.
you
So
scream Tupac, Frank.
yeah, it was all a dream, right? So anyway,
Well,
yes, we'll keep moving. But that brings up the point you guys have talking about. We've talked about Drake. We should definitely jump right into the hottest topic in the world, apparently, that I don't know a lot about because I have not been tapped in apparently to this topic. But I did see it on Saturday Night Live. That's how I figured it out. But there's a Saturday Night Live skit this weekend about Kendrick Lamar and Drake and their beef, which doesn't mean they went to get a sandwich together. Apparently, it means something else. So, who wants to jump in and share a little bit more about this?
well, I think Simon is, being in his mid-20s, he's probably our best bet in terms of having
Best correspondent.
he should be our, what is it, like mid-20 correspondent or something like that. So Simon, this is your cultural corner. Simon's cultural corner for everything new that's going on in the world.
Translate what the heck is going on here.
I'm happy to translate. I think it would be like a bad country to live in if I was the cultural ambassador to hip hop. But basically, long story short is that Kendrick Lamar and Drake are fighting. It started because Drake insinuated that he, J. Cole, another rapper, and Kendrick were like the three top rappers. Kendrick, who is largely considered the best, took offense to this, released a diss track, which was followed by Drake's diss track, which was followed by Kendrick's almost diabolical diss tracks that were like wildly, sinisterly mean but good.
All right,
It
so
has
basically he
escalated.
took a page out of Tupac and Biggie's playbook.
Yeah, and people are, because the last big major rap beef, from my understanding, was the Tupac Biggie beef in the 90s, which resulted in like, literal death and stuff. So this one's slightly less dangerous or physical, but two giants of hip hop battling it out. Most recently, Drake released a diss track, so Kendrick has to follow. There have been like borderline, like I don't even know if I should be listening to some of the accusations. Like it's almost not even my business what they're accusing each other of being, but just fascinating stuff.
Wow. And I think I may have even heard it is getting pretty violent, which is really sad. This is music here. We're not supposed to be like hating on each other like that, I guess. I just say hating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Someone
you get what I'm trying to say. They're not supposed to be doing that, but there's a security guard that got shot, right? And so it is getting a little bit serious and kind of ridiculous. These guys are like multi-million dollar, recording artists with lots of
$1 billion
potential. Yeah, right. Like these guys should like get it together. Come on, like. I mean, this is kind of similar stuff though. Eminem did this stuff too. I mean, I guess it does make for good content until somebody gets hurt. So hopefully they get it sorted out and they can all sit in a circle together and be friends.
Yeah, it takes like a special kind of person to engage with this level of like how public of a fight this is. Because I mean, I'm so personally averse to
Yeah.
conflict. I would get my feelings hurt and then give
Yeah.
up, I think.
Yeah, I guess this is not too different though. I guess it does happen in other places. Like Taylor Swift put out an album, right, recently. Y'all are familiar with her, right? And she put out an album where she did diss like Kim Kardashian and others as well. So, you know, it's stuff, I guess it's
Allegedly.
allegedly diss them, right? Right. And so anyway, I guess it makes for good fodder for music. And
Yeah.
how many songs are out there are breakup songs that not just she wrote, but anybody wrote? Like, a lot of songs were those songs, right?
Rivalries are as old as time,
Right.
right? So it's not going away. It's just,
No.
it's just very petty, and
Yeah.
somebody's gonna end up
How are
getting
we even
hurt,
talking about it?
unfortunately.
Because it was on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. Well, you know
How
what?
did,
Notably, the winner is the record label because Drake and Kendrick are both under the
right.
same label. So
So do you think it's calculated?
I don't think the hatred and the animosity is calculated. I think
Right.
the label is like, oh, word, this is a
Right.
great option.
Okay. All right. Because I mean, I know like back in the day when I was doing tech blogging, like there were things that were calculated. I just want to put it out there. Like,
Sure.
the leaked document from Yahoo wasn't always leaked, right? It just that was great a
Mhm.
headline and made people look at it, right?
Yeah.
So I know that kind of stuff happened, and very much was involved, or I wasn't personally involved, but I saw that kind of stuff happening all the time, and I just wondered how much of it is like, hey, it would be really good if we just did
I
this.
just can't understand why, because I mean, everybody, all of the critics love Kendrick Lamar, and personally, I've tried to listen to his music. I just don't get it, and
Yeah,
I'm not a big, huge Drake fan by any means, but I obviously Drake's very popular, right? So I
yeah,
know
they are.
of Drake and some of his songs, but
It's not; those are both not my jam either. Sorry, I don't couldn't tell you like one song that they sing. Is that terrible? My
I
like,
mean, I remember real beefs, like you were talking, Frank,
yeah,
like Tupac and Biggie. This seems more like something that's played out in the tabloids.
yeah.
Very,
Well, I hope
Yeah.
it's
everyone stays safe. They don't take it to extremes, or some of the people that are watching are part of it on the exterior are like, oh gosh, we got to, go get each other, because that's not really what this should be about. It's music. Let's just get together.
Um,
So speaking of
I
that,
personally, oh, go
what?
ahead, go ahead.
Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I'm personally investing a lot of emotional capital on Kendrick's side, so I am very invested in this.
Really?
So yeah, yeah. So just like if you could be respectful to him, I'd really appreciate it.
Are you a fan?
I mean, sort of. He won a Pulitzer for his writing, I
Oh,
will
okay.
say.
Interesting.
oh, noted, Simon. I apologize if I offended you.
No, it's okay. I just like just
Thanks for
sensitive.
Yeah, thanks for getting it out there.
Just be respectful.
Speaking of magic, um, like that. I don't know if this is a good transition or not, but there's a startup. Let's start with that. We talk a lot about innovation. There's a startup that is called PolkaDot, and it caught my attention because there's this whole movement in California. It's like a California sober lifestyle movement. Technically, it's not really sober. Let's just be honest, right? You're still using weed and hallucinogens to avoid the hard drugs and alcohol. So technically, it's just less of what you were doing before. But because of that, it's opened up this like opportunity, I guess you could say, for companies like Polkadot and others to create literally magic mushrooms. So there's an article we dropped in here about this new latest one, and it is interesting. I mean, there's probably huge money in it. It's probably going to get a lot of attention, and it's that gray area of is it legal or not. And apparently, this one particular company is building a product that is currently legal and could have some, I guess, some benefits for people that are trying to get that California sober thing going. So anyway, thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I'm here in New York and mushrooms and weed are sold not even in just gas stations or smoke shops. Like the guy behind the deli will sell you weed because um, these days, even though it's federally illegal, it's like law enforcement doesn't care.
Right.
And I think PolkaDot is taking advantage of that. They're using Amanita Muscaria
Hmm.
in lieu of psilocybin, which is
Right.
the typical mushroom thing, hallucinogen ingredient,
Hmm.
whatever. So
Yeah.
they're getting around the law that way, and it seems like it's just very prevalent, all these kind of things,
Yeah.
regardless of legality.
Definitely seeing that. So it's interesting, something to watch. I mean, it could be a whole another industry of folks following that kind of playbook and going down that route. It just makes me nervous for, little ones that are like still have to deal with like so much more stuff than we had to deal with when we were just poisoning ourselves with alcohol. Speaking of which, not saying it's bad if you like to drink alcohol, it's great, whatever. But you can all make your own choices. I have not drank alcohol in like 2 months since South by, since we all cheers to our great event. That was the last time I had a drink, and it was like a cider, so it wasn't really even a drink. I mean, it was like apple juice.
How do you feel, Frank? Give us all the feedback.
I feel good. I mean, it's really about like inflammation. I'm trying to lower inflammation. I don't know if you remember, I had a concussion that I had to laser my brain. So as part of that like situation, I'm like, well, if alcohol causes inflammation, and I'm literally paying somebody thousands of dollars to like not like to lower the inflammation in my brain that has a concussion. Why should I do this to myself? I'm like fighting myself. Like it's like punching yourself and hugging it at the same time if I did that, right? Like so anyway, I decided not to do it. And so and I'm also very streaky. So once I'm on a streak, I'm like, well, I can't, if I break the streak, then I got to start over. So anyway, so I'm on a roll, man. It's crazy.
Well,
do you
that's good.
find that, sorry, go ahead, John.
No, you go ahead.
Do you find that like waking up in the morning is easier? Like, have you noticed like physical?
Yeah. I mean, the problem with, especially as you get older, I'm only 27 today. So if I was older, I would probably even be worse. But as you get older, you basically don't bounce back as quickly, right? So your body just doesn't metabolize it as quickly, and you feel it. You feel it longer. And so if I were to go out and get drink a couple too many, the effects of a hangover last multiple days, and it's like that's not worth it to me anymore. It's just it doesn't. You can't shake it as quick, and so I think that's part of it. And so the inflammation I'm already trying to lower with everything else I'm doing, and I feel like I'd be going against that. So again, if all of a sudden the opportunity presents itself where I'm like, you know what, I think we should have one right now, I would do it. It's just right now, if I'm not in like a position where I'm like, yeah, I need to go get a glass of wine or something.
Good. Well, and that I'm glad you're feeling better. And
Yeah.
actually, is a nice segue to our next topic. We're going to talk about. It's actually the first time scientists have restored brain cells, which is
Wow.
I guess good for combating people that do indulge in
Or
either
overindulge.
right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I saw this article about restoring brain cells. That's amazing. Like, because you think about all the people that have been injured or have genetic conditions or whatever, epilepsy. Like, I mean, this could really change a lot of people's lives. I mean, so many people are on the spectrum, right, these days, and this could be, if they start tackling based on this breakthrough, continue to tackle these other things. Wow, could you imagine what that could do to people? It could change people's lives. So aside from the folks that are just basically consuming too much.
Well, taking that a step further, right? Growing brain cells. I
Mhm.
mean, we're talking
Yeah,
about restoring brain cells, but
yeah,
making yourself smarter at some point. So it's pretty wild. But
yeah. No,
hopefully, it just
that
helps
is
people
wild.
that have a disability or that need help because of issues
Yeah,
that dissipate brain cells.
I didn't even think about that element of it, John. And you're right. Like, gosh, super brains. It's the rise of the
Right.
super brains, right? Like, and people just that are so smart because they were able to grow their brain to a point where it's capable. I mean, the funniest part is that we don't use all of our brain anyway, right? Like, we only use a small percentage of it. But um, yeah, unlocking a bigger potential with that component or that side of it could be really interesting.
Is that a myth? Or, I've heard that like we only use like 20% of our brain. I've seen a lot
I'm
of movies about it. That can't be true, right?
I think it is somewhat true. I mean, right? Because they're able to monitor brain activity and
Yeah.
like, yeah. So I
Cool.
think there's certain parts of the brain that you don't use as much to the full potential, or
What's
maybe we
going
just don't
on
even
in there?
understand what it's supposed to do,
Yeah,
right?
we don't. There's
Yeah.
no way. There's no way we have a grasp of everything
Right. I mean, if we're
there
still
is
learning this
going
kind
on
of
in the brain.
stuff, like there's got to be a lot more. I think there's just so much we could be doing, and that's why I get it's frustrating to me to hear ever like I'm bored, because like, gosh, figure that out. That's the problem we have. We don't even know how much brain we use. You know,
Yeah.
there's like
I,
endless
I have
amounts of
a,
things to do.
I
Like,
have a big gripe with, did you know, so brains, and this is going to make me sound like an idiot, but they're not pink. They're gray,
yeah,
which in movies, they're in like books and they're always like, or books, you know what I mean? They're always pink.
right.
And that really bummed me out when I found out they're not pink.
And even the emoji that is on your phone is pink, which
Yeah.
reiterates that mystery that is
We're
incorrect.
being lied to.
Yeah, totally.
Big brain.
Yep, exactly. All right. So moving along, we're talking about bioengineering, or we're talking about like re-engineering, I guess. And so we want to move on to this house plants. And this was actually an element I added specifically for Jen, and she's not here to talk about it because she's turned into this like green thumb around the house. And she mentioned it last week or whenever we did our last podcast for Summer Frank, where she's literally like watering all the plants. She's ordering all these supplements for the plants and like doing all this work on these plants, and they look amazing. But this is for, there's this new plant called neoplants, and they're designing house plants that actually can basically get rid of pollution. They're getting rid of pollution in the air, and it's pretty amazing. So and they're not that expensive. I think it was like $119 for this basically bioengineered house plant that helps remove air pollution. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'd definitely buy one of those. And I mean, just plants by themselves help with oxygen and carbon dioxide and those sorts of things. So
Yeah.
that's pretty slick. I'd invest in one of those.
I'm a big fan of plants, and like I like to watch the trees here out in Kennebunk area. I'm on the Dutch elm watch, and that's kicking up again soon because we got to watch out for these little beetles that are going to come and like kill
Yeah.
all the elm trees. And so I've got 5 trees I watch throughout the summer, and I'm going to start that watch here soon because the beetles are coming. They're coming, I'm telling you. So that it's definitely
Frank,
something.
tell us a little bit more about that. So what do you actually do with your role, and then what happens if you do see something going sideways with
Oh,
the
yes.
trees?
It's very serious. We observe the trees every single day in the summer from like about June, probably like a couple weeks, like end of May till it starts to really warm up in like August, end of August. And the point is like these beetles come and they basically chew on the bark of these trees, and their saliva causes the trees to get infected with a disease, and it kills the trees. And so years ago there was this epidemic, like a pandemic for elm trees. Most of the trees in the country have been decimated by these beetles. And so from a role perspective, we get assigned trees. I have 5 trees. There's one across the street from my house. There's a few down the street, and then a couple like down the road. And we have to basically keep an eye on them every pretty much. It'd be great to do like every day or every other day. And so we're watching for like yellowing of leaves, and especially on the top or top areas. And so they're going to be green, but if they turn a certain color or yellow or start to brown a little bit during the time when it's supposed to be green, that means they're starting to get attacked. And then we have to report that immediately, because what they do is then they bring in the doctor, the tree doctor, and they come and they give them antibiotics. I'm not even kidding, and it saves the trees. But sometimes if you're too late, these beetles they act quickly because they're they're bugs, and they get there before you can, and maybe they come in the middle of the night when you're not able to see them. Anyway, long story short, you can lose the battle sometimes. I lost a tree a couple years ago, and they had to chop the tree down because they don't want it to spread. So it's kind of sad. These trees have been around for 100 years or so. Some of them longer than that. I see the one around
That's
across from
unfortunate.
my house is, the trunk is as big as like it's huge. So this is
Stay vigilant out there, Frank. That's an important role you're
well,
doing
it's
for
Yeah.
the
kind of
community there.
nerve-wracking because you're like, oh God, I gotta go look at the trees quick. Because if you don't, like if you miss it and you end up like, dang it, we lost another tree because I didn't go that day or whatever. It can be a lot to deal with. But
So a huge
yeah,
burden that you're shouldering there. So
yeah.
yeah,
This is year number 5, I believe, of watching the trees. So keeping it together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're
I've never met a beetle I liked. I don't think I've never liked beetles. I don't think they provide. I mean, I'm sure they provide something, but they're like gross and they're
about fireflies. You don't like fireflies?
Are those beetles?
those aren't beetles, are they?
You
Yeah,
love
look that
Kendrick
up.
Lamar. You hate Beatles.
I
Come
like
on.
Do you
ladybugs.
like the Beetle music?
There you go.
Yeah, they're okay. A little overrated. No,
All right, moving along here. Okay, so one more topic, and then we're going to testing because we're kind of at time here. We try to keep these tight for y'all, so we can get it on your jog or morning commute. So I thought this was really interesting. There's an article I think came out today about Bill Ackman. He proposed giving every child born in the United States $7,000 into an account when they're born, and then allowing them to restrict their number of withdrawals, right? So you can't withdraw the $7,000, and it's tax exempt. And so, and letting them, basically put it into some kind of account where it's got compounding interest. And so by the time they're 65, let's say that they live to 65, right? They would have, over, $1 million in their account. And so, and that could be great for anyone's retirement, right? And that could potentially help with right now we have people living on Social Security and other things, and this could be another way to do it that kind of puts the control out of, in the government's hand, but also out. $7,000 to me doesn't sound like a ton. And so it's pretty interesting. I think that maybe something we should explore. So I'd love to get your guys' take on it, because I don't think there's going to be a huge retirement for us from the government when we're ready to retire at some point. If we ever retire, I might just do what Willie Nelson does and never retire.
I don't know. Sounds risky. Something's to be gained. I don't know.
I think I feel like I'm the one that's going to be paying for all of those people's millions of dollars that they have when they're 65 at some point.
I see.
They're not giving me $7,000.
Right. Well, right. So eventually somebody's got to pay. So I see what you're saying, but at the same time, maybe there's a way that you can get it at a certain age.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, when the government gives you free money like that, handouts, what happens to everything else? They gave a lot of free money out during the beginning of the pandemic, and then what else? What now has? How has that affected the market at this point?
Well,
right?
True, but technically, like there's this promise for Social Security, right? That's what we're all paying into it right now, and there's question if by the time we retire, if anything will be available, right? And so we're technically already doing it. I think it's just his way of putting it is like a little bit more direct with like, you could put, instead of paying it in tax, like just put seven. It didn't say where it's coming from. We could probably dig a little bit deeper, but in some ways we're already doing this. I guess
the government's paying the money one way or the other. So why don't we just right today, everybody hit 65, forget giving people $7,000 at the beginning. Just give everybody $1 million when they turn 65. How about that?
Right. That sounds great. I think it'd be nice.
I'm up for that. Let's do
the
that.
Incentive for people. And then they could start this early, then they wouldn't have to, start, basically retroactively give everyone $1 million that at 65, but start with everyone new starting today, $7,000. They would then accumulate interest off of that $7,000 to the point where they'd make the million, so they wouldn't have to work as hard for the million by the time it's their time.
Well, right? How about every 32-year-old gets 500,000? Why doesn't the government should just do that? I think.
Well, the problem with that is
there's a lot of problems with it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that you talked about it being an issue, like imagine that, right?
It just doesn't make sense.
Doesn't matter. I'm just gonna play. I'm gonna keep doing whatever I'm doing till 90, just like Willie Nelson. Speaking of which, he's touring. That man is 91 years old and he's on tour.
He's California sober. That might explain it. Actually, I did hear he's California sober.
Well, whatever. I guess so. Apparently, it works for him. Right. Yeah, he's doing something right, but that's pretty amazing. I know he's like on the Outlaw tour right now with who is it? Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan and Robert Plant and Allison. Is it Cross or Klaus? Anyway, Kraus. Yeah, Kraus. Anyway, interesting stuff. I may have to go try to see them somewhere because that's like they're not going to be all touring forever. All right, so testing. We test things here. One of the things that I just got through the mail because it was a birthday gift for me was the Atlantic Coast Tide Clock. It's a really cool clock. Looks really nice, super sleek, and it tells you the surf, like where things are at from a tide perspective. So you put it on the wall. I think it's pretty neat. I'm definitely interested in getting that on the wall soon. It just literally came right before we recorded, so I haven't had a chance to play with it really, but wanted to share it if you guys were looking for a cool gift for anyone that's like, lives by the coast or likes to watch the surf or just lives a salty lifestyle. You can get that. I think you'd want to make sure you get the right coast, like Atlantic Ocean versus. I think it's probably. I think there's.
I find it really fascinating. I don't know how it all. I know it has to do with the moon and all of that. Actually, I do know a little bit more about it than I'm leading on. But point being is, I'm always curious when I'm on the coast when's high tide and when's low tide. So that's pretty cool that you have a a gadget to help you figure that out.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And anybody else testing anything recently?
I haven't been testing out anything, but I've been watching a lot of stuff lately. Like I know that we were all chatting about the roast of Tom Brady that just came out, which was pretty newsworthy, let's call it. A lot of big names are involved and that sort of thing. And then I know I also watched the Jerry Seinfeld movie, the Unfrosted movie that just came out.
Oh, you did? Yeah. So that's the one with Sarah Cooper we talked about.
Yeah. Yep. There's a ton of A-list stars in that. And it wasn't like it's not going to win any awards, I don't think. I've said this before.
It's number one on Netflix right now. That's the number one show.
Well, I know, but it is entertaining. So I definitely suggest taking a watch, but it's kind of like mindless humor. So check it out if you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah. I'll check that out for sure. I wanted to jump back because I totally forgot the other thing I've been testing. I just put them on. Can you see them? What do you think?
For our listeners, Frank is staring into the camera with some new glasses that he has on.
Yeah, kind of freaky, right? These are Ray-Bans. These are new Ray-Ban, the Meta ones, the new version. I know we John, you and I both have the last version. These are the new version. They are pretty interesting. They have Meta built in, so it's got AI built in them. And this is the transition lens. So so right now it's like white, clear, I mean, and it's when you go outside, it turns black like a regular, sunglass. And the cool thing about that is I can wear them inside. But my whole thought process for getting the transition lens has not totally lived up to what I thought it would. Like, I'm not wearing these inside. I think they work, and I think they look kind of ridiculous with the lenses being clear and me wearing black, like black lenses and black frames and clear lenses. I think looks kind of weird to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just super sensitive to it, but it looks like it doesn't look right to me. Like they should be sunglasses. And then I'm not like taking pictures of stuff in my house, So
I don't think they look that off. I mean,
oh, you don't? Okay. So they look decent.
yeah,
All right. So I think they should be brown. I think that's what my problem is. But the cool features are I can say, "Hey Meta, what's the temperature right now?"
You doing anything?
Waiting.
Oh boy.
It's...
What else do they do?
So you can ask it questions. Hey Meta, what is the temperature right now?
The temperature is 68 degrees.
Yeah. Apparently this is what, demo fail. Have you ever tried to do a live demo?
Right.
Clearly it's not working. But bottom line is it can tell you what the temperature is. It can look up, you can literally say, hey Meta, what am I looking at right now? It just took a picture and it's now figuring out what's in the picture.
Interesting.
So they're
could it
kind of
tell
like,
you if we're handsome? Like it would be like handsome men.
I'm looking
Two
at
supermodels?
a workspace with multiple screens and people talking to me. That's what it said.
Handsome
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
Nice.
that's what I'm looking at right now. And it's reading a message that Jen just texted me. Are you still recording? That's in my ear. So it's got these like little, like, you can't really see them that well.
Speakers.
But speakers down here, they're kind of right there. See that?
Sure.
And then also, it's got the little button up here that you can take pictures and do videos. And there's the other thing that's different for these, John, than the other ones. There is a green light that comes on in here when it's recording, so you can kind of see a little bit better. Like, am I recording or not? Because it's the other thing. The other ones I didn't know when it was on, when it wasn't. So I like them.
Sure.
I think I may swap them out for just dark lenses because I feel like that the other thing that's difficult is in your car. You're driving. You're inside. It's bright outside. Guess what color my lenses are?
Purple.
No, clear.
Clear. Yeah. I know.
Right. It's sunny out. I need sunglasses. So I can't wear it. It's like that. So that use case isn't working, but it's cool. It'd be cool if I was like traveling a lot and I want to just like take pictures and videos of stuff inside and out. Like I'm going to like museums with like, I've got like Picasso's or I don't know, like other pictures and stuff in museums or art institutes or whatever. I'd want to be taking pictures of like statues and stuff in Rome. I don't know what other things I would be taking a picture of, but it'd be cool to have that. And the battery is better than the other version, but it's not as, it's still not 100%. Like I think the case is better because it charges faster, I think, but it's still, the battery is not quite, it's not an all day battery. Let's just put it that way. It's probably got like a couple hours and then it's dead and you got to start over.
All right. What 1 out of 10? Where do you rate them?
Ooh, I'd say like so the transition lenses are cool. So I'd say like 7, but I'd like the transition lenses to be like boop, black, boop, clear, like so I can like just hit the side of it or hit somewhere and make it actively turn the lenses dark or not. Because then when you're also, the other thing is when you're in kind of in between, like in a gray kind of lens, you kind of feel like weird. Like you feel like, I don't know, was that like an 80s or 70s thing with like those like kind of grayish kind of glasses? I don't know. It feels like you're like a creeper in some ways. So anyway, I like them. I may have to switch. I'm having a hard time with this transition lens thing. I have a friend that got them and he's traveling and stuff and I've seen him using them. They look really good on him. He's wearing them all the time and looks great. I don't feel the same way about these on my face. I feel a little bit weird. I feel like Charlie Sheen in the movie Major League, where he had
Platoon. Oh, Major League.
where he's
Yeah,
blind and then he figures out he's blind so he can't hit the throw, and then he puts on these glasses and he has to wear glasses that are black like this. That's how I feel right now when they're clear. So
that's
anyway,
right.
but I would recommend them if people like that. Like I would recommend them. I just would make sure that the use case is right for you for the transition versus the polarized lenses. So I think I might swap them for polarized, and then I'll use them more. So anyway,
Good
cool
stuff.
cool thing. We'll drop the link in the show notes. Going back to what we're watching, I know you've been watching you watched the roast of Tom Brady, and we got a wrap here in a second. You guys watch that? The roast of Tom Brady?
It was good. It was real good.
It was on Netflix. It was good. It's just I was surprised with some of the jokes. Hopefully these kids have earmuffs and weren't watching because there were some really bad things said.
I mean, they went
funny,
after him.
yeah,
I was surprised how much they went after him, and we were all talking too. Why would you ever agree to do a roast
I
of
don't
yourself
know.
like that?
I don't know who. I was thinking, what is the gain here? Who's gaining by this? Like I'm trying to think.
I know they paid him money, right?
Yeah.
But like, how much money does Tom Brady need to have people just destroy your life and everything about you?
Yeah,
in
or
public?
is it the old all publicity is good publicity?
I don't even know that he needs publicity either. Didn't he just sign like $100 million contract to be a sports reporter or something? So,
Yeah.
and he's already made $1 billion as a football player. So I
But
don't know how much more money he
is
needs.
it just a diss on his ex-wife? Like he's doing for his ex-wife to get back at her? Like I'm trying to understand the motivation here because
Yeah, I know.
it
I
didn't
don't
seem
know.
like a win.
He took offense to, like, I remember one of the jokes was about Robert Kraft, and I won't go into the details, but
Yeah.
he like blew up about that one, and it was just a little weird. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm so insecure, I'd probably cry. It's not for me. So I respect Tom Brady for doing it, but yeah, I don't
Do you
know.
guys see I'm taking a video right now? It's got a light on
I
it.
can see, Frank, I wore my glasses to a barbecue, funny story. And I was talking to a group of my wife's friends, and they all were kind of creeped out by the glass. They thought I was filming our conversation, and I had to
That's the
explain.
other
I didn't
thing.
even have them on,
That is the weird thing. Yeah, right. I
but
mean,
I felt like a creeper. I was kind of embarrassed. People thought I was recording our conversations when they weren't even on. I didn't have that. I was just wearing them for the
Ooh.
sun.
So that's an innovation. Maybe there needs to be like a little like button that closes the lenses so they don't look like when they're off, they're not like looking like you're recording because people can't get the idea of when you're recording. There is a light, but they don't know that, right?
Sure.
So that could be one other innovation that could be cool. But I think it's cool that you can take phone calls and stuff on them too. So anyway, I might be on a phone call right now. You don't know that. All right. Well, that was really interesting. I wanted to ask you about this. I know I'm still watching Palm Royale every week. It's pretty hilarious. So check that out. Unfrost, which you mentioned, I haven't watched yet, but it's in my queue. Simon, you've been talking about baby reindeer. Are you getting a baby reindeer?
No, not yet.
Okay.
But I'm watching a Netflix show called Baby Reindeer.
Oh, okay.
It's like number 1 or 2. It's really high up there. I won't spoil it. But essentially there's this stalker and she's stalking a man and he does not handle it well.
Oh, wow.
It's a true story. And what's cool is that the actor is who wrote the story, and who it happened to him. So he's acting in
Wow.
it. It truly happened to him. Just happens to be a phenomenal actor, I guess.
Mhm.
But it speaks really honestly about, some deep-seated issues with, like, acceptance and stuff. It's great. Not to
Wow.
bum everybody out at the end of the show, but
What is it on? It's on Netflix?
it's on Netflix.
Okay.
Really good. Maybe a little traumatic for some people. So if you're not, super comfortable with some of that stuff, don't watch it. But
Yeah.
if you are, couldn't recommend it more.
Cool. Awesome. We'll have to check it out. Some weekend views. For those that are, I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but if it's before Mother's Day, don't forget Mother's Day. If it's after Mother's Day, hopefully you hugged your mom or sent her a note or flowers or did something, or just at least had a memorial if she's no longer with us. So that's the other thing. So think about that. And then also, I wanted to end on, I don't know, this is kind of funny, but I've been drinking tea. I started drinking green tea. I don't drink caffeine. I should mention that too. So this is like a spike for me. So I've saved this bottle now for 3 or 4 weeks, and I've been drinking it slowly. But it's mainly because of my brain again. I'm like trying to get my brain wires going faster again because I had this concussion, and green tea is supposed to help. So running is another thing I've been doing a lot of. Been running a ton. And anyway, so long story short, it has a nice. It's just iced tea. Anyway, it's got a little cap that says, when I do good, I feel good. When I do bad, I feel bad. That is my religion. Abraham Lincoln said that, and we'll leave it at that. Good guy from Illinois, I guess. So, with that, hope you all have a great weekend. If it's a weekend, if it's a weekday, keep on trucking. hug your loved ones, and thanks so much for listening to Somewhat Frank. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for listening to the Somewhat Frank podcast. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe and leave us a review. We love the feedback and are grateful to have you as a listener. Have a great day.